Welcome to my first podcast. I'm not even sure this is a podcast, honestly. I've never watched or listened to a podcast. So, here we go. Anyway, thought of the day. This is something that's been on my mind quite a bit lately. And some of you might know me. I do some streaming through an app, and I have a group of people who know me through that. And if you're coming through that, you get an idea of the kind of person I am already, so you have some background to, some substance to me. Within that framework, what I am wondering about is the long-term effect, actually the short-term effect, but the long-term effect of AI and robotics. Because when those two get combined, we're going to lose how many jobs? 50%? 70% of jobs? And so all this little quibbling right now, for example, about SNAP money, it's relative little quibbling compared to the snowball coming down the hill, gets bigger and bigger from the avalanche until it hits the village and wipes out the village. That's how prophetic I see things coming. It's going to be like biblical. And so people are going to lose jobs left and right. I mean, that's pretty much a foregone conclusion already, right? What we're trying to do is figure out how to soften the blow so society doesn't turn into chaos, chaotic anarchy on itself. And so the only two options are the wealthiest share their wealth and be philanthropists about it. If that doesn't happen, then the second choice is the government doing it, which means we have to tax the wealthy and take the money that way. Plus, the government becomes the administrator for redistribution of wealth. And yes, redistribution of wealth sounds socialist, and that's sort of where I feel we have to end up. I think capitalism is going to be dead with the advent of AI and robotics and marrying those two together. I mean, what conclusion can you come to except capitalism is going to die? There will always be some jobs, but I think it's, what's the phrase I'm looking for? Although I think it's a little bit naive to think, even that's unemployment will be under 20%, in 3 years at the most, by the end of Trump's term. So let's say, so I'm introducing the political element here. I dropped the T word. Let us say that the worst that people, the worst catastrophe being predicted comes true. And for me, the worst catastrophe would be something to the effect of all these people, all of Trump's cabal are in it to take all the wealth from everybody and put it in the hands of the few. Right? I mean, that's sort of like the big evil prediction. And so then, while they're doing that, of course, they're raping and pillaging the government and taking all of that too. So, as they do that, the question is, what is the government's reaction? And in this case, the worst case scenario is the government is complicit in doing this. So they're in cahoots. So you have the army being controlled by the government, And then you have like production and wealth being controlled by the few rich, the ultra rich. And if the government is in cahoots with the wealthy class, then the real question is, what do you do with all the scrubs who are taking away from the wealth of the wealthiest class? Because surely they don't want to feed them and house them and educate them and create a very pleasant society. I think it's pretty safe to assume from recent events, like within the last year or so, that the super rich really don't have that as their motive. So what will so the people have to change the government so that the government creates rules that favor the people instead of the wealthy. But if the government refuses to allow itself to be changed, then the people have no recourse. The only recourse that the people would have at that point, unfortunately, from the way I see it, is to have a revolution, or it might be a civil war. But ultimately, I would think whoever would win, just for example, if you're going to drop names on this, like the MAGA and whatever, the Antifa, whatever, the liberals and the conservative, however you want to split the hair, right? The hair is being split. So we can all acknowledge that in whatever label or subcategories and blah, blah, blah. Y'all either know you're this way or you're that way. Yin and yang. Less filling tastes great. I think that's where they got it from, by the way, were those light beer commercials where they were arguing that it was either less filling or tastes great. And I think politicians glommed onto that and let it morph into some big mushroom off a turd, and here we are, right? So I think whoever wins between the less fillings and the taste greats will have no recourse but to then overthrow the wealthiest. And then the only recourse, the question after that is, what government would you create? And whoever wins from the less filling taste greats, and then they'll have control of all the armies and everything because they're overthrowing the government. So they will have control of the armies, and then they will take control of the rich people. To me, that's the logical progression. I don't think you can take over the rich people first because the army will be there to stop you. So you have to take over the army and get the control of the army back, and you're already getting generals who are stating something to the effect of, I believe things should be going this way, and I resign because I disagree with plan A, because I think we should be on plan B. So I can already see where the military is going to split and fight upon itself. Because you don't hear guys in the military standing up at the recent, I call him Heggie, is my abbreviated way to say his name. At the meeting that Heggie convened, bringing in all the generals, and basically they said, hey, you don't like it? Hit the road, right? And so you're hearing from the guys who are hitting the road, but then there's either a silent minority or a silent majority of people who will go on Heggie's side and Trump's side. And that is going to create the Civil War. And I would just tell you, from what I know of the Army, I could see that being a very interesting split. But also I could see a lot of people dropping out and say, I don't want to fight. This is not my fight. This is not why I joined the Army. I certainly would not want to wage war upon other members of the United States military. I mean, that thought would be insane to me. So, but just because it's insane to me doesn't mean that other people say, well, I think it's a great idea. and then we're stuck. Okay. So that's sort of where we're at right now. So the question is, if we wanted to do this amicably, which is my preference, by the way, peacefully, amicably, like taking care of everybody the best possible way so everybody can be comfortable. We have to share this country. We have to have some honest brokering about what's reasonable and what's not, and make new laws. And if the only way, and our current government is at such loggerheads, our current government is at such a loggerheads, I'll say that again, that they are becoming polar opposites of each other and they can never agree. But we are seeing a little bit of chipping on the mainstream Republican part of the party, because those guys know that their constituents are bringing the heat on the next midterm. We're talking about the House of Representatives here, right? I hope you know the House of Representatives is entirely elected every 2 years. If you don't know, do a quick Wikipedia search on House of Representatives legal structure. How they get elected, what their role is, blah, blah, blah. I think you owe it to yourself and to the country to do that much. So anyway. I have to go back to the original thought that took me to the house. Hang on a second. I wish I had somebody on here who could remind me, like type it in. You were talking about this, like they do when I'm holding my group chats. But anyway. But you all see. So I want to do this amicably. So we have to have a Congress. That's where I was going with it. We have to have a Congress, which is the House of Representatives and the Senate. And they have to do some good faith negotiating on behalf of their constituents. There are, and the way that the districts are gerrymandered now, they don't have to pay attention to their constituents. And that is creating a problem because the people who have controlled the current most effective gerrymandering, because it's been going on for more than a week now, it's been going on for a while. So it's not like it hasn't been going on or ever went on. This is a continuation, but nowadays, this gerrymandering stuff is really fine-tuned. It is like, I'm sure people run algorithms. You have like data geniuses with PhDs analyzing, trying to figure out, should this block go or that block go, this is probably a really big business. I have not heard of one company that advertises that they analyze voting districts to maximize them in favor of a particular issue or party. But there has to be those companies. I bet you they're worth big bucks, man. So if you want to find out who the Texas Republicans paid to do the research for their gerrymandering for the current map. Who made the map? That's what you want to find out. Missouri, California, for that matter. It's not just a one-way street. Where everyone's, we're going gerrymander crazy right now across the whole country. It's pretty ridiculous. So, but what we need is a Congress that will listen to the people and be reasonable in representing them and making laws. You can't just say, we got you, fuck you, we're going to do what we want no matter what because we've gerrymandered so effectively, right? And that's just not the proper way for the citizenry to allow itself to be treated by our local by our elected officials. So whether my preference is that we get to that point amicably. My fear is that we don't. We have to go this big long circle to finally remember why we shouldn't have done this in the first place. That's called history, folks. If you go back, who knows how many years off the top of their head. $85 years, 90 years, more than that, 100 years, probably 100 years or so, plus or minus. You dig into the history of how we got into World War II, and then World War II history itself, then you might be shocked that what's going on now already happened on a global scale. Pretty crazy. So it's just too bad that we can't get from point A to point B amicably, but we have to learn this lesson, we being society and the world, I guess, in general. We have to learn this lesson again after something that should have been settled 80 years ago, but apparently not. So but if we get there amicably, which I'd be pleasantly surprised to go through that, of having gotten there amicably. Then the question is, what is there? What form of government will we have there? And this is where I think that people need to realize that capitalism is dead. Because we cannot have a capitalist society, because capitalism depends on people spending money and buying stuff. But if people don't have money, capitalism is no longer effective. So we have to go to some other ism, and I believe that is going to be a type of socialism. I mean, if you have a different type of ism that we could use, then assuming I get this uploaded to YouTube, add a comment. Assuming I allow comments. This is my first one, so I might get the settings wrong. So bear with me as I get this shit organized, all right? And so I think no matter what, we cannot stay at capitalism. Look what it's doing to us. It's become a cancerous growth. What? It's become a cancerous growth. It was a crazy football play that just happened. That's why I had that reaction. Anyway, so if we don't go, well, let me reverse that. On the expectation that we leave capitalism, then what ism do we go to? And I think that's a good place to stop this podcast. Thanks for listening. If you want to, please subscribe so that whenever I upload the next one, you might get a notification to listen to me BS/pontificate. Philosophize. I'm a philosopher. It says so in my profile. Thanks and good night.